Hello and welcome to everyone across the nation joining today's workshop on how to reconnect a suspended test. This workshop focuses on reconnecting a test that was interrupted or suspended using CASAS e-tests online from the Management Console and the testing station. A certified proctor performs these steps in combination with managing sessions. This is one of 23 complimentary CASAS online implementation workshops. You are not expected to attend all 23 workshops. This is a training room set up to conduct all of the workshops combined, and we recommend that you attend as many as possible to learn about best practices, ask questions, and to become confident in using the online system. Online help documentation is available on our website under Training and Support, e-test help documentation, as well as TOPS Pro Enterprise help documentation. Please be sure to bookmark these as your electronic go-to resources, particularly the CASAS e-test online guide. This guide provides the information covered in these workshops. Our guide is produced annually and generally updated annually. When we have our National Summer Institute, I'd like to officially extend an invitation to all of you to please join us in San Diego, California for our 2015 Summer Institute. We have information on our website. From the home page, Summer Institute is the first button here, and it's a great opportunity to have an excuse to come to San Diego and network with others across the nation. We will be holding hands-on labs for both TOPS Pro Enterprise and CASAS e-test online. So please join us. We'd love to see you. Now, today's workshop will cover information in section 4.4. Let me go ahead and increase this here so you're not straining your eyes on your end there. We'll go here. Section 4 under proctor duties, specifically testing irregularities, section 4.4. However, I'm going to pop up here to managing session guidelines at section 4.2 to actually launch into the discussion for today. But before I do, I want to remind everyone of the main domain name for the production server, where you will eventually be set up with your online database and begin producing live data, and that is at etestsonline.org. Test is plural, so there is an S after test. The page opens to a screen with eTests online, anything that has to do with eTests, such as registering computers, administering tests, and accessing the management console as to perform coordinator and or proctor duties within the management console. You can access TOPS Pro Enterprise as well as update the versions as we release provide new updates or release updates to the online application. That would be an indication to where you should update from the website by clicking on TE Client or Install. Okay, and this right here, folks, please disregard this message. This is not displayed to the general public. This is just an in-house message to CASAS staff right now. All right, we are going to be using the simulation server. This is identical to the production server. We encourage you to use this. It's has fictional data for Rolling Hills Adult School. That's a fictional school as well. And so that you can experiment and explore without fear of compromising your live data. So we encourage you use this independently or even holding in-house staff training sessions. We have information under the training and support, e-test help documentation. Getting started, you can acquire a document to explain how to access and log into the simulation server. So with that, we're going to go ahead and begin today's demonstration. I'm going to sign in to CASAS e-test online as my proctor for the day. Go to Testing Sessions, start my testing session, acknowledge my maximum supervisory hours, and start the session. Okay. I'm going to add my stations as appropriate. And now I'm going to go to the testing station itself, click Administer Test, run the executable file to make connection with the CASAS hosted server. And now I have the testing station ready for test administration. Okay. Oh, goodness gracious. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Debbie and Rebecca. My sincere apologies. I am so sorry. Let me just, I think most of you have already been, and Gertie, you have a question. It was probably to let me know I'm not showing my screen. I am so sorry, folks. Please accept my apologies for that. Most of you, I believe, have heard everything and seen everything that I've explained so far. Here's the section 4.2 in the CASAS eTest Online Guide that we're going to review. I've signed in as a proctor and accessed the management console and started a testing session and added a station. I've also gone to the testing station itself, clicked Administer Test, ran the executable file, and now I have the station ready for test administration. Okay, thank you for that notation there. All right, so in section 4.2, I put together this managing section guidelines just so that proctors could have something handy right by them at their proctor station, so that if they come across any type of anything that's explained in here, they may come across. This is just simply 2 pages, and it is very helpful to give this to your proctors. Now, let me just start right here. Right now, we are signed in to the proctor station, okay, and the testing station is ready for test administration. What's going to happen when you have suspended a test sometime in the past? What the proctor needs to know is that there is an intervene button, and we used this a few times in the last workshop. I used the intervene button that you see here, okay? Now use the intervene button from the section activity window, because the proctor has to reconnect any test that was suspended. The proctor is required to reconnect the test, and the proctor will know when a test is has been suspended at some point in time in the past when they see this request for the status next to the student, as well as identifying the station at which that student is logged into. Okay, so the proctor will see the request status, and they must click the intervene button and reconnect the test before the student is allowed to finish the test. Now this is what it looks like from the management console. What the student sees when the student logs in to the testing station, here again, the application detects that this has been a suspended test. And there is a notation here that their last test, telling the student, your last test was suspended and needs to be reconnected. Note to proctor, in case the student calls the proctor over to them, not understanding this message, and the proctor reading the message hopefully is understanding that this now, they need to go to the click intervene from the session activity window. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate this, as well as go to bring up section 4.4, and as just another quick review here, that most of you have seen from the previous workshop, that when the proctor uses Control+E key command from the testing station and had chosen to exit the test, that in a sense essentially suspended the test, and the proctor would have had to have disconnected the test from the testing station at that time in the past in order to close the testing session. So now you have a test in a literally in a suspended state on the CASAS hosted server. So from this section here, this is another way of looking at it. The test taker logs in at a later time or date to finish the test. Here again, this is the message that will display to the test taker. The proctor then goes to the management console, clicks intervene and reconnect, and these are the screenshots. The proctor clicks intervene because there has been a request from the testing station to reconnect the test. The proctor then clicks reconnect. So the test taker at that time, they continue the test from the same point where the test was last interrupted, and the test timer will have paused in the past, and the student that reactivates the test timer, and now the student will continue with the appropriately timed time remaining. Okay, and once that test is completely finished, it will be scored and recorded, and a WTU is decremented from your bank of online test administrations. Now, folks, using at this point, and we're going to actually, let me just go ahead and go over to the testing station, and we'll log in as our sample student for today. Okay, and this was for Rick Williams. Whoops. Let's just go ahead and type in that ID again. Okay, and today I'm Rick Williams. I'm going to acknowledge that that is who I am. And here's the message that I presented to you in the print material. Okay, so no matter how many times Rick clicks refresh, this will not reactivate the test. So the proctor, from the session activity window, notice here now there is a request. Now before I click intervene and reconnect the test, I want to also explain that this shows the proctor exactly what form the test, test taker, what was suspended for that test taker. When they started the test, now we happen to start this test today, but let's say that, that Rick Williams actually started this form back in, I'm going to say January 19th, and it will show how much time he has remaining and how many questions he saw on that test at the point in time in the past that it was suspended. Now, before the proctor just clicks intervene and reconnects the test without even observing this information, it is important to take note of this information to determine whether or not it is appropriate to reconnect the test and allow Rick to finish. Okay. Now I would say 7 questions, and just for your information, folks, the questions here, this includes these 2 practice test items. I still don't understand, quite honestly, why the developers include the practice items in the number of questions. My preference would be to only display the actual test items. But as long as you know that every standardized CASAS assessment leveled form, level A, B, C, and D, all of those forms have 2 practice items. Well, I can say for certain reading and math always have 2 practice items before the students launch into the test. So in a sense, Rick has only answered 5 questions on 81R. Okay, the listening tests are a little bit different because there are practice items before each section is presented on the listening test. Okay, but let's just keep it in the context right now of reading and math so that you understand that practice questions are included here. Now, in my I would recommend, let's just role play, stay with me here, role play with me here. Let's say that this actually says January 19th. And knowing that Form 81R has 2 practice items, and Rick answered really only 5 items on this 81R, and it's been 2 months ago. I would say that is so few questions that I would be inclined to intervene. The proctor does have to reconnect the test, and this is, stay with me folks, to reconnect the test. Now notice here, this window, it displays the station name and in the lab, Rick Williams, his ID, test in progress, but this reconnect window doesn't display this information here that we just talked about. But the proctor still needs to reconnect, and where I'm going with this is, in my thought, 2 months ago, that's a long time ago. So what I would be inclined to do is to actually abort the administration in the past to allow Rick to begin that assessment again. Okay? Now you wouldn't do that if it showed that Rick had answered, say, 27. Well, actually, there's not 27 items on 81R. It's good to be familiar with the amount of questions that are included per form. So you may want to have that information available to your proctors. 81, I believe, has just 24 test items. Let's say he answered 20 items and only has 4 more remaining. Well, Rick has seen a great deal of that assessment. So in that case, I would say let Rick go ahead and continue that test and finish it. Now, in any case, if you decide to let Rick finish a test that it was started 2 months ago, okay, then when he finishes that test, it will be scored and recorded with the January 19 date. Okay, it won't be today's date. So that's can be confusing. Okay, so in my recommendation, if I were proctoring, I would say let's abort this assessment. And back here at the station, now it actually picked up where Rick left off, but we interrupted that, so let's go ahead and restart the application. And it's good that you're seeing these type of messages that come up on the screen from the system so that you don't panic. This is just natural for the application. So you'll see that now that Form 81R is in fact still available for Rick to begin again. And I would say in that case it is appropriate for Rick to begin that assessment again. Okay, but here again, you may be an organization that has a state assessment policy as well as a local agency or local organization assessment policy. So please discuss these types of issues when it is appropriate to interrupt a test in progress and the reasons why. Okay. So that the proctors are clear in understanding what is appropriate, what is acceptable, and what is not acceptable when interrupting a test in progress. Okay, so I'm going to just quickly put this test back in a suspended state. Remember, from the management console or from the testing station, the proctor can use Control-E and exit the test. Okay, but right now I'm going to return to the test and actually do it from the management console. I'll click Intervene, Disconnect, okay, and it completely takes it away. All right, but if you disconnect the test from the management console, the screen still stays displayed at the testing station. So it's good to understand the differences. But now the test delivery system, which is in the temporary memory on the machine, it is now detecting that this test was interrupted, and so this is why it's giving this message. I'm going to click OK. Okay. And hopefully, okay, there you go. Okay, and Debbie, let's see. Student would be able to access the assessment from any computer station or returns to the, excellent question. Excellent question. Let me go ahead and log in here. Okay, and to answer your question, yes, the student does not have to return to the exact same computer. That suspended test. Now I only have one computer available to me for demonstration purposes, but you saw that previously he was on station 1. Even if I remove this station from this session, and let's say Rick returns, maybe he returns under this, the proctor determines, okay, he's a returning student. It has been quite some time since he's been here last. I start this, and oh, I see that he had a suspended test from way in the back. It doesn't matter what session under which Rick logs in under, and it doesn't matter what station. It's just when the proctor disconnects the test, it truly is in a suspended state, so that test can be reconnected under any session as well as reconnected on any station. And this is across your entire agency. It doesn't have to be just at the North Campus. If you have multiple campuses, it can be clear across campus. Okay, good questions there. Okay, so let's go back here. So let's whoops, I keep interrupting the test. Sorry about that. Let me log in as Rick again. All right. Now, his test is suspended. So let's pick it back up where we somewhat left off. Okay, so let's refresh the screen. So now we have a request from the testing station to reconnect Rick to a suspended test. So this time I'm going to go ahead and say reconnect to allow Rick to log in. Right now it's inactive until Rick clicks the refresh button, and the screen will open to where he left off last, or last left off. And then from the management console, you'll see now that now he is logged in and he's in the process of taking this test. Okay. And I'm just kind of continuing on here as the proctor is monitoring how he's progressing through the assessment. All right. Now let me use another example of momentarily suspending a test. Let's say at the testing station, let's say that this station, for some reason, it just froze. It's non-responsive. Okay, if I click here, or I try to use the Control-E key command, which I'm doing now on my keyboard, nothing is responding. Rick can't click on anything. He can't move forward. He can't move backwards. Something has locked up on the station itself. Okay, what you can do, two options. Option one is at the testing station. At the testing station, there is another command in addition to Control+E that the proctor can use. And let me go back to, whoops, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to click on that. I meant to go back to table of contents here to go managing session guidelines, the second page here. If the computer screen freezes, the proctor should use the key command to clear the testing station screen. Okay, so the proctor should be aware of this key command, because the only other option the proctor has is to do a forced shutdown on the machine, and generally that's not a good idea, folks, because there are running components on the machine, and it's never good to do a forced shutdown. Okay, but what's happened is that the machine has frozen, the screen has frozen, the test delivery system is non-responsive. It's locked into a secure browser, so you can't even get out of this screen at all. So using the Control-Alt-Shift-F10 completely clears the screen. And I just used it, and notice it just completely cleared the screen. Okay, and if I were on this screen, it would just go right back to this screen. Okay, let me oops, I'm sorry, not sign in. Let's see. Let me run that executable file again real quick, because from here, okay, no, actually I don't need to. Sorry about that. From the management console, as far as the e-test application knows, Rick is still taking a test. Okay, so it's not, something happened at the testing station with the test delivery system, but it's not communicating anymore with the application management here, the management console. So in this case, you would want to intervene, disconnect Rick's test, and then move him to, or you can actually, you can start him once the screen is cleared and everything is refreshed. If that's the case, if the computer isn't totally defunct, and you can just start him back up again, then the same process holds true. Rick's test is suspended. Whoops, I'm sorry. So the proctor simply reconnects the test and allows Rick to continue. But it may be a case to where you've had to intervene, disconnect the test, and actually move Rick to another computer workstation, okay, another registered testing station. If that's the case, then you would, and I'm just going to pretend that that I have more stations registered. Within the same session, the proctor can click Add Stations, and any other available station, and I'll say this is available here, then they can start Rick. Let's say this is station 11. Just pretend with me here. And you have him sit at station 11 and then have Rick sign in at station 11. We interrupted this, so let's have him sign in at station 11. But I think you get the picture here, folks. So something may also occur at the station, forcing you to disconnect a test and redirect the student to another computer. Okay, and now Rick can go ahead and continue. All right. Okay, let's just go but right now I'm going to go ahead and intervene, abort, so I can go ahead and manage. Let's say Rick finished, all testing is done. Don't forget the proctor must click manage and stop the testing session, and ideally log out, and they are done for the day. Okay? All right. So as just a quick refresher here, if the computer screen freezes, it's Control-Alt, and you do that with the right hand or left hand, and then with the right hand, use Shift plus F10. So it's in that quick succinction there. Okay. Use the Intervene button from the session activity window to score, abort, or disconnect the test. Okay. Here again, if the proctor experiences an irregularity, they should use this fillable form, submit it to, even though it says submit to tech support, and you can have any other type of form to submit to the site-based coordinator to make a determination. But it's best if honestly, if the proctor goes ahead and fills this in, because they have that first-hand information from having been signed in to the management console. They know the testing session, they know the student, they know the form, they know the station, and that information is important to know. And then the site-based coordinator can determine whether it's something that is can be remedied at the local agency or needs to forward that on to our support team. Okay, so folks, that's it for today's workshops on how to interrupt a test in progress, as well as reconnecting a test in progress. Okay, so essentially these types of options here. So I hope I presented them to you in as much of a straightforward manner. In other words, I hope I didn't confuse you. And I think according to my notes here that I'm looking at, I think I have shared everything that I've needed to share. Any other questions, folks, that you may have at this point about interrupting a test in progress and reconnecting suspended tests, moving test administrations? You do need to disconnect a test if you plan to move administration of that test to another computer or make it available at another site for the student to continue. Any questions, folks? All right, well, we'll go ahead and end today. Thank you so much for your time and your participation for today's workshop. Tomorrow we're going to be covering, next week. This ends this week's lineup of sessions. So starting next week, we're going to go through the recommended intake process, and we will bring in some of these aspects of interrupting a test in progress as we are following the recommended intake process. Now, if you would like to have a preview of the intake process, then I recommend from our website here under the eTest Help Documentation, Intake Resources. And right here, here's a standalone document titled CASAS Intake Process. So go ahead and grab a copy of that and review that before next week. Not to say you have to do homework, but it would be helpful to be familiar with this intake process, which covers intake examples for both organizations running ABE as well as ESL programs. Okay, this is a functioning document to where you can go directly to those processes here and so forth. So that will be helpful to you. So it's called Intake, CASAS Intake Process. Okay, thank you again, folks. It doesn't appear there are any further questions, so we'll go ahead and end today's workshop. Have a good rest of the week and a relaxing weekend, and we'll see you back next week. Bye-bye.